Welcome to the second Indie Ref Weekly Review, bringing you a roundup of news you maybe missed every weekend to the Scottish independence referendum in September. This week, Better Together continue to use misleading polls, everyone is intimidated, and Scotland's renewable energy sector is threatened. First up though, a peaceful protest took place last Sunday outside of the BBC Scotland building in Glasgow. The protest was against the bias that the BBC and mainstream media have been accused of having against the pro-independence movement. However, you may not have heard about it because they never reported it. In fact, the only channel to cover the demonstration, which involved over 350 supporters, was Russia Today. Links to a great wee video of it are below. Now, studies carried out by John Robertson, Professor in Media Politics at the University of West of Scotland, have shown that Good Morning Scotland and Reporting Scotland have both been heavily biased against independence, with Yes supporters 3 times as likely to be interrupted and cut off while talking, amongst other things. This has led Robertson to recently come out and say that BBC Scotland News and Current Affairs Department is now hopelessly compromised and nakedly campaigning for a no vote. Links to those reports are below. Meanwhile, a leaked report from as far back as 2012 shows that less than half of BBC staff believe that internal communications within the corporation are honest, with that figure dropping to less than a quarter in the News and Current Affairs Department. There's another peaceful protest outside the BBC scheduled for Sunday the 29th of June, with over 900 people already confirming that they will be there. Remember that they are using your licence fee to peddle this nonsense, so if you want to attend, the links to the event are below. I intend to be there, so do come and say hi if you see me. Which brings me on to my next point. After posting the first show last week, the response to it was phenomenal. I wanted to say thank you to everyone who sent words of support, as it is very appreciated. Now, amongst all the messages I received, I got a tweet from Michael Gray that contained a quote from Jello Biafra that I found especially meaningful. "Don't hate the media, become the media." When our own state broadcasters against us, and those that we oppose have all the money and the power, we need to speak out and become the voice that Scotland hears, especially since Better Together have just recruited M&C Saatchi, the ad agency behind the controversial Labour Isn't Working campaign in 1979 that brought us 18 years of Tory rule that the people of Scotland didn't want. This week, Better Together released polling data of over 1,000 Scots that showed that most Scots wanted to continue spreading the cost of benefits and pensions across the whole of the UK and to share the wealth generated by our oil. Scottish Labour leader Joanne Lamont has come forward saying that this shows massive support of the union and of our desire to benefit from it. Except it doesn't. The highly misleading questions put to those who took part in the poll actually asked, should the old age pension be the same throughout the UK, and should welfare payments always be the same throughout the UK? I would have answered that it should be equal to, but the questions assume the continuation of the UK, and they never ask whether or not Scotland should be independent and responsible for its own spending. Nikki Hall, one of the respondents to the poll, sent a message to Wings Over Scotland shortly afterward, saying that the poll was completely misleading, and by the time she realised what it was, she was unable to go back and examine her answers. She went further to say that, "I want to pool Scotland's resources, and I want to distribute Scotland's wealth and make it work for the people of Scotland, as a country, not a region." But they didn't ask that. If anything, the poll has now backfired and Better Together. After it was released, it was noted that England and Wales were polled too, and much more interestingly, that Scotland tended to vote much higher to distribute pensions and welfare equally than England did. More evidence that the political differences between Scotland and England continue to grow. Of course, it's not the first time that Better Together have been caught out being misleading with the information they choose to distribute. Last month, they released a roundup of polls that showed that the No camp was gaining momentum over the Yes side. Wings Over Scotland have a great breakdown on why each of these polls has been intentionally skewed to misrepresent the data, links below, but my favourite is still the Ipsos Mori poll at the top. This isn't the latest Ipsos Mori poll at all. This poll is over 3 months old, and the 2% increase it talks about is in comparison to another poll conducted back in December. Last month, another poll was commissioned from Ipsos Mori at a cost of £25,000 to the taxpayer, and its results showed that, well, I couldn't say. The UK government is still refusing to publish the findings, although an anonymous and therefore unverified source has come forward and said that this is because it showed a massive rise in support for Yes. So please, do be wary of any data published by Better Together. They do not have a great track record for honesty at the moment. Now, last week on the show, I gave a quick shout out to National Collective and the Yestival project, which would see artists and performers supporting the case for independence travelling across Scotland. They were in the final stages of funding, and I'm happy to say that they have hit their target, and Yestival is a goal. You can check out when they will be in your area by clicking the links below. This week though, I want to give a shout out to Generation Yes, who are getting the younger generations involved in the campaign for independence. They are fundraising right now to raise some money to send packs to youth organisers in towns and cities across Scotland. Links below to them, and please do help out if you can. This week, from Project Fear, the ongoing campaign to keep you scared of independence, we all find out that the No Camp are being intimidated and bullied by folk online. Alistair Darling, leader of Better Together, has given an interview to New Statesman where he said that there is a culture of intimidation in Scotland against anyone supporting the union. Now this is just a twisted perversion of facts to make you think that all Yes supporters are violent bullies. If this was true, why is the first case of reported violence in the debate against an 80-year-old Yes campaigner who had his wrist broken while holding a Yes sign? A recent poll conducted for the Scottish Sunday Express found that 21% of those planning to vote Yes had received abuse or threats, compared to 8% of those planning to vote No. If you want to see what intimidation looks like, that's Alex Salmond leaving an open debate at Fernhill Community Centre in Rutherglen last month. Now, when someone disagrees with a statement you made online, that isn't you being bullied and intimidated by a cybernat. It's a basic part of democracy and freedom of speech. That if you lie and misrepresent, we get to call you out on it. The best part is that Darling talks about this culture of intimidation in the same article that he compares Alex Salmond to Kim Jong-il, because Salmond called out that the rise of UKIP in Scotland could be attributed to the fact that the BBC gave Nigel Farage 5 times as many appearances than any other politician. And now on to the final section, it's the fact of the day. At the moment, Scotland produces 40% of its energy from renewable sources, with models suggesting that we could hit 67% by 2018. David Toke, reader in energy politics at the University of Aberdeen, stated last year that independence would ruin our chances of hitting our green targets, but later turned that around and instead said that independence would be better for green energy. Why? Westminster financial policies are now heavily favouring nuclear energy, even though energy bills would actually be cheaper in a Scotland run on renewables. According to Toke, independence would give us the chance to reach 100% of our energy coming from renewables by 2023. But Westminster are killing that possibility in favour of what benefits them. Last December, a sudden amendment was introduced to and passed by the unelected House of Lords, which withdrew the Scottish Parliament's power in respect of renewables obligation in Scotland, which ensured that energy suppliers sourced an increasing amount of renewable energy every passing year. We have very different renewable potential than England, and yet our progress is being held back by nuclear-focused policies and their curtailing of powers that had already been devolved to Holyrood. Which isn't surprising considering that the UK's Environment Secretary, Owen Paterson, is a climate change sceptic. Now, if Westminster have been taking devolved powers back from Scotland for their benefit, even before the referendum, what do you think would happen after a no vote? Still think we're better together? Thanks for listening. Links to everything I've spoken about are below. Please do share, like and subscribe. I'll be bringing you your Indie Ref weekly roundup every week from now until the referendum in September, and I will see you all next week.